The jury also heard from the second accuser's mother, who was also Michael Jackson's former personal maid. She said on 2 occasions she saw the pop star in bed with a young boy. She also said she saw the same boy in the shower with Michael Jackson. She did say under cross-examination, however, in a sworn deposition she gave in the 1990s, she said she never saw Michael Jackson molest a child. Both the mother and this accuser settled with Michael Jackson for roughly $2 million, and the mother said she did receive a $20,000 payment for an interview she gave to Hard Copy.
But 2 former Michael Jackson employees say the star didn't even turn up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sit at the table like Michael is going to be there, you know, at dinner. And we did that for the whole weekend, but she said between you and I...
Yeah, he was not coming, yeah.
He was not coming.
Yeah, he was in Los Angeles.
Just don't tell them that he's not coming, that's all.
That's all, yeah.
Jimmy Safechuck, like so many others that I have come across, just simply got too old.
Too old.
Too old.
Let's get back to the Macaulay Culkin testimony. Susan, you were there. You watched it. You know, we keep talking about sort of the pluses and minuses of each witness. You know, Mike says, well, you know, there is this sort of grooming testimony that came up that was helpful to the prosecution. But even as the former prosecutor that you are, you'd concede that Macaulay Culkin's testimony was generally pretty helpful to the defense, because in particular he's able to articulate what it's like to be a child star and to talk about sort of why Michael Jackson may be a little bit wacky.
I thought he was a good witness, and I thought he did a good job. My question is, did he do too good a job? Because on cross-exam, some of the things that they tried to ask him about, if he were being completely honest, he would have had to concede certain things that really weren't that big a deal, but he did a big dance around them saying, I don't remember, I didn't know I was going to be asked this, I really can't recall. And it started to beg the question, at least for me, is this rehearsed? Is he the perfect entertainer giving the perfect performance of his life? He was very charming, very sweet, easy to listen to. He really sort of brought you in, and you did get a real insight into what their relationship was like, but you still have to scratch your head and say, wait a minute, you slept in bed with him all those times and nothing happened?
But Daniel Horowitz,
if the jury believes that,
Daniel, the defense
it's a good day for the defense.
But Daniel, the defense is going to concede that Michael Jackson slept in bed with children. I mean, they're not going to dispute it. We've even heard defense witnesses talk about that, right? So if they concede that, I think the advantage of having Macaulay Culkin testify for the defense is, in a way, he kind of puts it in this kind of perspective, if there is a perspective to put it in.
I think so, Dan. I agree with you. It was a devastating set of witnesses, really, young men who theoretically, according to adults, all of whom had an axe to grind and were prosecution witnesses, these young men, these supposed victims, one by one said it didn't happen. Now, Macaulay Culkin said it didn't happen, and Ron Zonin broke down essentially and said, well, you know, maybe while you slept it happened. But that's not the accusation. The accusation was when the French fries were being delivered, Macaulay, who was wide awake, was being molested. The prosecution has essentially conceded that their own witnesses were not telling the truth. And I think it could be a fatal blow.
I don't know if they're saying not telling the truth. But anyway, Mike Tavey, go ahead. You want to get it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, because the jury is not going to forget, or if they do forget, Tom Mesereau is certainly going to remind them at some point down the line that the only testimony that had Michael Jackson allegedly groping, fondling Macaulay Culkin was by this former self-described major domo, this cook, Philippe Lamarck, who also, the jury will be reminded, talked about selling that story for $500,000 to one of the tabloids. So you have that testimony from that prosecution witness alleging that this young man was molested by Michael Jackson, and the young man himself coming in saying, I think quite believably, I don't know which courtroom Susan Filan was in, but I think quite believably, no, it didn't happen when I was asleep, it didn't happen. So I think that it was a significant last of the triumvirate of witnesses, of alleged victims, to say, I know what people said about us, I can't believe they did, because it didn't happen.
All right. Joining me now is Michael Jackson's spokesperson, Ramon Bain. Ramon, thanks for coming on the program. We appreciate it. Before I ask you about any specifics, let me just ask you a general question. What's the sense amongst Michael Jackson and his closest friends and relatives about how the trial's going so far?
Well, you know, Dan, Michael feels that his defense team is doing a very good job. They've only been, arguing their case since last Thursday, but Michael has felt very comfortable with Tom Mesereau, and he feels that he has done an exceptional job, even in cross-examining the prosecution witnesses. And I think that he feels comfortable with where they are now, and he's just looking forward to this continuing every day and hoping that the information that is coming out will prove him innocent, because he's maintained his innocence.
Is he preparing a worst-case scenario, meaning if he's convicted, how he'll deal with going to prison?
I don't have those conversations with him, Dan, and I wouldn't feel comfortable in having that conversation with any client. Maybe he has had those kinds of discussions with Tom Mesereau, but we're not looking at the downside. I mean, we prefer looking at the cup half full rather than half empty. He has maintained his innocence. We believe he is innocent. He is not a child molester.